In this project, I will show you how this button box went from quick sketch on paper to something real that actually can be used for simulation. The idea was simple, you only use what you need. Everything connects with a magnet, so different modules can be added or removed easily. All files for this project are included in the description below. I came across this upcoming button box by accident, and it instantly gave me an idea, why not create my own with my own vision. So I opened Photoshop and started drawing, letting the shapes come naturally without overthinking it too much. At this stage, it's really about defining the overall look and getting a real feel of how everything fits together. It's also much easier to make changes here compared to working directly in 3D. Once the main idea feels right, I start adding some colors and basic textures, just to get a quick preview of how the final design could look. This helps me validate the direction before moving into the 3D modeling phase. Once the design was clear, I moved into 3ds Max to start building the 3D model. I used the sketches as a guide to define the overall shape of the button box. From there, I started taking precise measurements of the main components, like the display and the other hardware. For the buttons and switches, I used these 12-volt high-quality LED buttons for this project and measured them with a caliper to make sure everything fits correctly. This allowed me to build an accurate 3D model and get a clear preview of how everything would come together. This video is sponsored by NextPCB. They basically covered everything when it comes to PCB manufacturing, from prototypes all the way to full production. You can upload your design and even get the boards fully assembled ready to use. One thing I found really useful, they have free online Gerber reviewer with DFM check, so you can upload your files, preview everything, and catch issues before sending it to production. I will leave the link below if you want to check it out. In the slicer, I keep most of the settings as default, since the part will be sanded and painted, only increasing the wall loops to leave a bit more material on the surface for sanding. I have been asking a lot how I get clean finishes on my 3D printed parts, and honestly, it just comes down to using the right tool in the right place. For this kind of detail work, I have been using this small tool called the F2 Master Mini. It feels more like holding a pen than a tool, and small LED really helps to see exactly what you are doing. It comes with different tips, so depending on the shape of the surface, you just switch and keep going. It's especially useful for sanding tight areas, smoothing surfaces after removing supports, or fixing small imperfections from the brands. You can adjust the speed depending on what you are doing, slower for details, faster for large areas. Tools like this are great for sanding large surfaces, but for small details and everyday work, the F2 Master Mini is something I always keep next to my 3D printer. If you are curious, I will leave the links below. For the front plate, I wanted the carbon fiber look, so I started by cutting acrylic sheet using the laser on the H2D, which I later covered with carbon fiber vinyl. Since this was my first time cutting black acrylic with a diode laser like the one on the H2D, I tried different methods and settings, even cutting with the protection film on, but this actually gave me the worst result. For comparison, this part was cut with a diode laser and this one with a basic CO2 laser, and the difference is just pretty clear. The CO2 cut gives much cleaner edges and more precise results. For the brain of this project, I considered a few different options, each with its own advantages and limitations, but at the end, I went with the ESP32S3, since it can handle all the components without the need for any extra expansion. To power the system, I added the necessary components including step-down converter, a couple of capacitors and a diode. This gives me a second power option, especially useful if I decide to run the system over Bluetooth. To connect all the buttons and switches while using fewer pins on the microcontroller, I used what's called a matrix layout. Instead of running 2 wires to every single button, the buttons are arranged in rows and columns. Each button sits in the intersection between a row and a column. The microcontroller scans the matrix by activating one row at a time and reading the columns to detect which button is being pressed. In this setup, I can wire 12 buttons using just 7 pins, which makes it a really efficient way to handle multiple inputs. Using a matrix layout comes with some limitations, and one of the main issues is noise and unwanted signals. To safely use these 12-volt LED buttons, I added optocouplers to isolate the 2 different voltage levels. Each optocoupler is paired with a diode to keep the signals clean and avoid interference in the matrix. On the input side, the button sends 12 volt through a resistor into the optocoupler. When the button is pressed, it simply activates the internal LED inside the optocoupler, which then transfers the signal safely to the microcontroller. The rest of the components, like the detachable button module and the RPM lights, are connected separately using their own dedicated pins. The rotary encoders are connected directly to the microcontroller, each one using its own set of pins to keep the signal clean and responsive. After testing all the components on the breadboard and making sure everything was working correctly, I moved on to recreating the same layout as proper PCB inside Fusion 360. Once the wiring was finalized, I started routing the PCB. I personally prefer doing all traces manually instead of using auto-routing, since it gives me much better control over path spacing and overall layout. For the ground, I use the full copper pour on the bottom layer, basically creating ground plane to keep things cleaner and improve stability. And finally, doing last check on all traces can save a lot of time before starting the PCB manufacturing. Once the PCB was assembled, I connect the microcontroller and finalize the code along with the matrix layout, this time testing everything directly on the PCB. I also added momentary behavior for the switches directly on the code, so they act like quick press instead of staying on. I used the software called DiveView to test all the buttons' inputs, making sure every press was detected correctly, and also to check for any ghosting or flickering in the matrix. For the graphics on the LCD, I designed the full layout in Photoshop, then imported everything into SimHub. Using JavaScript expressions, I linked the 2D design to the live telemetry from the game, so everything becomes dynamic and updates in real time during the race. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the build or learned something new, drop a like and subscribe. If you haven't seen my previous builds, go check out the other projects on the channel. Bye!